I'm back, recording live from my bedroom. Yes, this is a bedroom, but it's actually not a bedroom. It's a bedroom. It's the kitchen. It's the living room. It's my office. It's basically my everything. When I started on this path 21 years ago, actually, excuse me, um, I had a computer set up in an office, so I was enthralled in all the information I was getting. It was a whole new world had been opened up to me after I listened to the audio by Ed Griffith on Creature from Jekyll Island, August 2000. And that was a turning point in my life right there. When I heard that audio, 5 minutes into that audio, I knew right then and there that, well, I remember saying to myself, I knew it because I'd always suspected all through my life, and probably many of you do too. Maybe that's why you're here. There's just something not right out there. Don't necessarily know what it is, but we just have this feeling there's something not right. And when I heard that audio, I knew right then and there. So that set me on the path to this journey that I've been on ever since. And so I spent a lot of time, a lot of time on the computer, using the internet, gathering information, studying, to discover this other world out there. And so it just became convenient to basically get out of my computer chair and roll into that. At that time, it was a couch in the room in the office, and I would sleep on the couch because I'd be waking up 2, 3, 4 in the morning, who knows when, and or never knew when, and inspired and get back on the computer again. So it just evolved into that, where now it's my bedroom. This is my comfort zone, so to speak. Not that it's anyone's business, but um, so I just want to give you a little bit more blurb on me. I started in full time on this path in January 2001. Um, I'd actually gone to see David Wynn-Miller in Seattle, Washington, about a week before they had a little earthquake there. Trying to, was there with David Wynn-Miller. I actually seen David Wynn-Miller in September 2000. But anyway, I flew out to Vancouver. I met some friends. We drove down to Bellingham, Washington State, and a 3-day meeting there with David Wynn-Miller. Came back, and while there, I heard about this $1 million letter that was out of Florida. So I inquired about that and tracked the guy down and got the information. That kind of started me on the path of eliminating debt. Some successfully, most of it not successfully. And looking back in hindsight, I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. And I would, if I was to do it again, I would certainly do it differently. I thought I was a wise guy. And then like many people on this journey, you go out there gung ho with a lot of information and stuff and things and concepts, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. And so I learned very quickly that there's more to this than meets the eye. And as time went by, I had to dig deeper into the, not so much in the legal stuff. I started going biblical at one point. There was a point in this journey I didn't even believe in God, or just a little bit. After being on this path for a while, that turned and started looking more to the Bible. In fact, it was did all the webinars, so on and so forth, with Marcus, the Servant King fella, in 2014. His first videos came out in 2013, I believe. Watched all of those again and again and again. Did the webinar thing, did the baptism thing. But anyway, so it was about May 2001. Met up some other people on this path here of like mind, and never knew them before, never met them before. And we just kind of started to get together. So I was inviting them out to my house on the island in Campbellford. And one by one, people would bring some information. So I read and studied the book, the BBCOA Redemption. I studied Roger Elvik a lot. Eldon Warman, Fred Kyberg, the other gentleman on the trust. So Alfred Adask. In fact, it was him that when I was reading one of his documents, so 203, I don't remember when, whereas he was doing this blurb, he was starting to deduce for himself. You could see in his writing that he says, I wonder if they're treating us as trustees in the court. So that was, looking back in hindsight, not 15 years ago or more, actually more. He was right on the money. So I've read and studied from a lot of people on this path, and many who have now since passed. And it's been a great journey. In 2004, 3 of us met with the Deputy Registrar General of Ontario. I was very well versed in the Bills of Exchange Act, with negotiable instrument stuff because of the Roger Ulvik, the acceptance for value, so on and so forth that we were doing back then. So I knew and know the Bills of Exchange like the back of my hand. You can see I got the original from Ottawa. It's a Queen's printer copy, so it's official copy, and there's not a page on it that doesn't have writing on it. It's full. We did a lot of studies and notes and stuff. In fact, in 2000, I had a criminal case started in 2000, and by 2002, the Crown walked away based on things that we had learned, since getting onto this path, and was able to beat them in that case. In fact, it was over in 10 seconds. not going to get into the full particulars, but so they beat me the first time in criminal court. I beat them the second time in criminal court. They beat me the first time in civil court. I beat them the second time in civil court. But all these battles and stuff, it's just like, yeah, okay, we can be experts on this stuff, but that's what's the point of this? I'm not interested. And quite frankly, now where I'm at, I don't go to court. Even the cops will say if they don't do it anymore. But last time I got a ticket from a cop, same, it always seems to be the same cop in town here, small town. But anyhow, he looks at me, says, "You're not going to court, are you?" I says, "No." So they know. And I have a good rapport. I never abused them or screamed and yelled at them. They're doing their job, and I always figured it's always the fault. Not the fault was within me, not out there. And so that kind of kept me on the straight and narrow a little bit, and kept the anger out of this out of the picture, and putting words on paper that they just are not really conveying a child of God vibes, if I could put it that way. So anyhow, 2004, we met with the Deputy Registrar General, May 4th, actually, in 2004. Had a nice meeting with her. Started off with, I slid the long form statement of birth across the table to her lawyer, Attorney General lawyer that was there with her, and another fellow, Victor, also witness, and slid that across the table and said, "How can I be responsible for this?" And Diane, the lawyer, piped up and said, "A little bit young for that, weren't you, Vic?" So kind of right then and there, we knew that broke the ice, and we had a very nice conversation. And the bottom line came down to this: the government doesn't register people. A birth certificate is not and was never intended to be personal identification, and it's just registration of an event. There's one other thing, but it's not real relevant. And the parting thing she did say at the very end of it, she meets a lot with bankers. We kind of scratched her head on that. Why would the deputy registrar be meeting with bankers? And I still don't understand, to this day, don't know why, although I suspect in the Reclaim Your Security stuff that the bankers might actually be the Bank of Canada, for example. But, neither here nor there. So, a lot of studies, looking at a lot of stuff. I read pretty much every federal legislation in Canada, every provincial legislation in Canada that was applicable to this path, and got very well versed in stuff. But then one by one, I start throwing this stuff away. This is, trying different concepts and theories and stuff. And, people do it, we do it. It's a part of the process. Somebody offers something on the internet, looks good, sounds good, jump into it and do that, dead end. And around it goes, on and on and on it goes. So eventually it's, you settle down on these things the longer you are in this journey. And then the new people come in there would be like us when we first come in, all gung ho. And don't lose the gung ho. You got to maintain the gung ho. I get that. Anyhow, studied heavily also the securities legislation in about 2012. The Securities Act here is very big. After a couple months of that, my brain was fried. It's a large, about 200 pages almost, and it's a very complicated read. But we're also looking at the Securities Transfer Act, which is very relevant now. And it kind of lost my path on that, went back to the name thing and put a lot of emphasis, quite frankly, over the years, that it's not my name. I didn't do this, and trying to, bring about change that way, which was just another dead end road on, quite frankly. And, but did that for a long time. Like I say, looking back on, I was just chasing my tail. We all were, that we're sticking to that name game thing. And so every now and again, though, I kept going back to that Securities Transfer Act, because that Section 13 kept playing on my mind. The bill of exchange or promissory note is not a security, but is a financial asset if it's held in a financial or a securities account. I can't remember if I mentioned, but I did call a Bay Street lawyer on that, and had a chit chat with him on that, and he confirmed that it would be my credit. If it's my note, it's my credit. So again, walked away from that, and then it was really weird, and I still to this day do not know the mentors that actually contacted me. I had never ever been in communication with before, and I was just then back into the securities transfer legislation, thinking about my friend with the birth certificate in the traffic court to settle the matter with his birth certificate. And we went in on the first appearance or first day there, and walked up to the prosecutor. Didn't cross the bar yet. It was just a pre court meeting, if you will. Presented the birth certificate not as evidence of my identity, but evidence of my interest. We talked about that one of the videos here, and it's your claim to the interest that they're holding. And I'm here to release my interest for the settlement of any and all charges, and the Crown accepted that, and the matter was done. Definitely not the way to handle those matters. He handed them a blank check. There's another way now that we know to deal with such matters, and basically to the extent that they wouldn't even bother to drag you in there anymore once you've secured the securities and taken control. the situation. So anyhow, so I was just back into that, looking at securities transfer legislation again, and I know that quite well now, very well. And in comes an email. We have the answer and the phone number. So I called it immediately, and I had a chit chat for about an hour, I guess. In the very first chit chat, I wasn't able to record that or anything. I took some notes because I wasn't set up for that. And so I had a series of chit chats after that. And I kid you not, I never spoke to either of these gentlemen. I'd never been in communication with them ever in my life. And this email shows up. Weird. Um, Nothing happens by accident, I guess. It's a way to look at it. So, and that's when they brought forward the reclaim your securities information, which turned out I actually had some from 2012, but I guess where my head was at the time, I just, fluffed it off, but I actually did have some saved in a file in the computer here. And, but they dumped on me a whole raft of it. Like in total, there was over upwards of about 30,000 posts, I believe, in the Reclaim Your Securities Yahoo group that was started and ended in approximately mid 2012 and ended end of 2012, early 2013, something like that. When Bill, the main guru guy there, had just came to share what he shared and said what he said, and here's the information, and people do what they do with it. And a very wise man, very smart man, you'll get access to all of these Reclaim Your Securities posts if you acquire the information package that I talked about. We offer through restorethekingdomofgod.blogspot.com, and I'm getting emails from people asking questions. A lot of those questions are answered if you go to that blog and read the main page and click on each of the 3 hyperlink buttons there. There's additional documentation and reading material there for you. And so just so we're clear here, this information, this Reclaim Your Securities, actually originated from the United States IRS, like I said. It applies to every country that is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in the States. So if your country is registered there, then reclaiming your securities applies. Now, like I said, I mentioned Canadian legislation here, but I do cross-reference in some of my videos here the UCC and all my securities, all my files. Everything's cross-referenced in there. It's all cross-referenced in our tutorials and stuff. So for example, if you're from the States and you get the package, as you listen to the tutorials, I'll show you you see the Canadian side and the US UCC Article 8 or Article 9, whatever the case may be, equivalent. Okay, but as I said, I'm not here to do all of your homework for you. We have done the bulk of it to get you started without doubt and providing the information for the first 4 steps that, as I say, everyone should be taking those first 4 steps. First and foremost, that gives you the foundation to stand on. And this is part of the thing people have been looking at, something that's consistent. And it's kind of like the rock Jesus talks about, I think, commercially speaking, and I'm not speaking for Jesus. I have not the authority to do that. So, and also here, I'm not going to butter people up and say, oh, yeah, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that and so-and-so got this and so-and-so got this and try to sell you on successes and stuff like that people have or have not, whatever. We're not here to do that. We're just here providing information. And if this information resonates with you, it makes sense to you, and you see the sense of it, then that should be enough. If that's not enough to get you further involved, at least doing your own studies, looking at the information that is free, all these videos, it's all free. You got a really solid, really good foundation here in these videos and the information at the blog. Now that's free. What you're paying for is not that information, but my time. If you want to get the benefit of the homework that I put into this, and I'm talking, I couldn't put a number on it, but I'm gonna tens of thousands of hours got me to this point. But in this here alone, hundreds of hours. When you get the Zoom meetings, you'll see right there alone. Yeah, it's like it's 5 cents an hour is what it works out to roughly. So it's, some people I know, they don't like to pay for information, but it's what you're paying for is some of the homework that I've done for you. For example, the security agreement. It's rock solid. It's a piece, it's brilliant. And there's some things that are not meant for public consumption here. That's another thing. Some things I cannot say here and I will not say here. It's just not meant for public consumption, but you can get that information if you order the information. It comes in privately. It's in your own little house there, I'm not gonna put it on YouTube. Nobody that knows about this puts it on YouTube or any other public platform. it's it could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Let's put it this way. It could be abused as well. And so, I'm not going to tell you things to butter you up to get you. Oh, so if I can get a new car, then I'm in. We don't want people to come in here because they might get a new car. If that's what it's about, then keep on going. There's, like I said, that's far greater than this. You're starting with your freedom. Freedom, number one, right? It's like my friend says, if you don't have good health, who cares how much money you have? what good is it? So again, back to that solid foundation. And so I'm not going to say things here that might entice people to partake in this for the wrong reasons. So so anyhow, so like I say, in the information package, the verbiage is there for the endorsement on the face of the birth certificate. There's a step, very first step in part of our process was never discussed or mentioned in the original Reclaim Your Securities group ever. And I can't say for sure, but we suspect that they were not aware of it. And it was a friend, a fellow I know, who discovered this quite by accident. And I kind of talked about that in the first video, and I talk about it also. There's some verbiage there in the must-read document on the blog to do with the mother's involvement in this. And all I'm going to say to that here is that he discovered quite by accident. What he had done is he had leaned some matters for courts. And so he did the filing, he did all of his information, had his name, his phone number, his address, his contact information was all on the paperwork, all the lien filing, security agreements, documents, everything. What they did, they went to his mother to remove the lien. So you see, you can think you're on a solid foundation. You can do steps 2, 3, and 4 here. But if you don't do step 1 and they go to your mother to pull out that, then all of this falls apart. So it was quite by accident that came to be. And that was that's the first thing I heard on the call when they contacted me, through that email I mentioned earlier, my mentors, and I phoned them up, and with 10 minutes into it, he mentioned that little thing, which I'm not going to mention here, how to resolve that, to what he discovered. And so we have that step 1 in our process, 4 steps we call it, but that's step 1. Where was I going with this? Shoot, just a sec. So anyhow, the documentation comes with the information package for that step 1. Step 2 is the entitlement, the verbiage on the face of the birth certificate. It's re-endorsing the certificate and returning it. Like I said, we should have done that when we were 18. Same at the coat check. If you have your coat checked in, that's your interest is your coat, right? And you got this piece of paper which is claimed to the coat. You're not going to get that coat. You're not going to get the trustee who's holding your coat to perform as long as you're holding this ticket here. You have to hand it over. Oh, then that kicks them into gear, right? To get your coat. Maybe a silly little example, but it's basically the same kind of concept here. And that little ticket thing, by the way, is a security. It's claimed to your coat, right? So it's also, I guess, a security for the other people that they make sure they give the coat to the proper individual. So, so I'm not going to say things on here that's going to buddy up. And like I say, it was quite by accident that this fellow discovered that this little step that we've made part of the process here now. So to prevent them from, like I say, going to your mother or something like that, or someone else for that matter, and yanking these liens. You don't want that. So, that's why I say solid foundation. This first 4 steps provides the solid foundation. And so, yeah, I think that's just, I did have a little note here I wanted to look at. Let me just pull it up here. Actually, you guys can look at it too. This is a comment I got from one of the YouTube videos. Hang on here. I better, before I do that, did I sanitize it? I don't like to share people's private information if they don't authorize me to do that. Just let me do a quick look here. Yeah, it's good. So right here, this part in yellow, this is the type of knowledge that is forbidden to be taught in the public. So you can only give just enough to grant the determination to inquire more of what you or your team has to offer to your PMA. That would be you folks. I am also an individual who says this is something you must do yourself with someone else's guidance or someone's guidance. Key part here is forbidden to be taught in the public. There's stuff I would love to say to you here, but I'm not going to be the one to do that, to put it in the public. And I'm not going to say stuff here that's going to say, get you, like I said, if I just do this, I can get a new car, and everybody's going to join to get a new car, and you're going to join, partake or put time and effort into this so you can get a new car, and that's the only reason. No. So I'm not going to do that kind of stuff either. We're just providing information. Okay. If you like what you see in the videos and what's available through the blog, and that's enough for you to start doing your own homework now and filling in the gaps. If it resonates with you to go down that road and do that, go do that. But if you want to save some of your time, and I don't know where you're at in your path and how long it might take you to do the studies to put it all together, which the information package we have already does that. 75 to 90%. I can't put an actual figure on it because I don't know, again, where you're at, and you definitely have to be involved here. There's no, somebody's going to, we definitely don't say, okay, you file this paperwork, and when you're done that, let me know, and I'll tell you what to do next. No, 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 no. There's no freedom in that for you or me. And I'm not taking on those burdens. So we're providing information. You got really good information in these videos and from the blog, like I say. And if you want to do your own studies, go nuts. That's all free. The rest is your own time into it. But if you want the benefit of my time that I put into it to bring you these templates and stuff and all of these Zoom meeting recordings, and there are lots of them, then that's my time. That's also part of an even exchange. You see, we've all lived in this planet since we've been born here. And our problem is there is no even exchange. Remember I said there's a trust because of an uneven exchange. No fair exchange of value, no equal exchange of value. Well, we amongst ourselves have to recognize that too. I get the love thy neighbor thing and the love thy brother thing, but it goes both ways. And everybody's got to eat, right? Anyhow, it's every man's worthy of his hire, and it's goes both ways. I don't expect anything from anybody for nothing. I don't care what it is, and I do appreciate what I do get for nothing most of the time, not all the time. Still sometimes see that half empty glass or half empty glass, but nonetheless. So anyhow, this is just a general rendition of maybe I'm just rambling on here. And so anyhow, since receiving the talk with my mentors on the reclaiming securities, and there's something else that came up in the conversation there with respect to that statement of birth, registration of live birth document being a registered certificated security. That was a revelation. Looked up, I'd already, like I said, already done some studies in the Securities Act, and so I know what a security is, and that, well, that fits the bill for sure. Or Securities Transfer Act, it's all defined in there and mentioned in there, and there it is. So just two things that were said in that initial call with my mentors, and that's when I knew, like it said in their email to me, we have the answer. And when I heard what I heard from them, knowing what I already knew and had gathered on this path, like Thomas Edison learned a lot along the way to getting to the light bulb, but he learned a lot along the way. Well, I learned a lot along the way as well. As most, probably all of you have too, on this path. The longer you're on it, you can't help but learn a lot or learn more. So anyhow, I think that's pretty much it. Just a sec here. I'll put it on pause again. Sorry. Yeah, and when I heard that registered certificated security with respect to the registration of live birth document, because remember what I said, I was just right then looking in actually the part in that Securities Transfer Act, Section 1(2). It's also in your UCC. Hang on. I can't remember. Oh yes, which would be, as I mentioned in the video, UCC Article 81029(3) in Roman numerals. That's where it's talking about the like I mentioned in the call the other day, as the context requires, financial asset means either the interest itself, i.e. the gold over there, or the means by which a person's claim to it is evidenced, the birth certificate, including a certificated or uncertificated security, a security certificate, and a security entitlement. So there it is. So I was just looking at that in the securities legislation when I got that again, because that's my friend used that so I'm thinking what he did in that court that day in that traffic court is hinging right on this right here. He said to the prosecutor, I'm presenting this birth certificate not as evidence of my identity. Truth. It's not evidence of your identity. I got proof of that testimony. If you have people who are still uncertain about that, find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. But evidence of my interest. So they're holding the statement of birth, his interest, they're holding your gold bar, your interest. This is a proof of claim. You're here to release a portion of your interest to settle the charges. Here, take a little bit of my gold to pay the charges. But there's a few problems with that thinking, and as we know now. But the point is we learned from that okay, so something with this birth certificate, and there it is. It's in that securities transfer legislation, and So the certificate was identifies proof evidence of his interest that they're holding. The prosecutor, the Crown is holding. So it's not the proper way to deal with that. And we talk about that in the Zoom meetings and stuff. Zoom meetings that we've had many, and why that's not the proper way to deal with it. So on the face, it looked good. He got out of there. He didn't have to pay the fine. It was all finished. It was done. And although the cop wasn't aware of that, the cop was expecting it to go to trial, but it was done. It was over. But it's not the proper way to deal with it. When he did that, he gave them a blank check. And secondly, he didn't get anything for his money. You don't pay for something you didn't get anything for your money. You're getting a traffic ticket. What did you get? You want to pay for that? Now, if the government needs money for other purposes, that's a different story. But you got to be a prudent businessman here. Recognize, I don't, think about this. You don't just pay for something you didn't get. If I'm getting an apple, yep. If I'm getting your time, yep. Food on the table, whatever. Transportation, absolutely. But a traffic ticket, I didn't get any equity here. But they want me to give equity? Yeah, no, not going to happen. If you want it to happen, you can. You can also, rather than giving a blank check in that situation, you could put a limit on it. Okay, I'm authorizing you to tap into my interest to this. First you need to tell me what you guys are looking for here, because you never put a figure on it. You're looking at the ticket, $250. Here to release my interest for the settlement of any and all charges. Basically, he signed a blank check there, so they could go behind the scenes and be going, well, he didn't give us a cap on the amount of the charges, so why don't we beef it up by a 10, 20, 50,000, 100,000? And that debt would be stuck on your estate, you see. So you got to be thinking about these things, the proper way to deal with it. So the other thing is here, you and I are men and women. We got to stop kowtowing and bowing to these people. And I don't mean disrespecting these people and screaming and yelling at these people. They're people. At the end of the day, the wisest thing a Crown prosecutor said to me once, who was brilliant, a beautiful lady, it's, after all, there's only people here. So you can take the masks off, take the hats off, because behind all of that, it's people there. And how do you know that their child didn't die last week? There's just a whole bunch of variables we have no concept, no knowledge of. Thing is, better to make friends than enemies. And hate never cured hate. War never cured war. So I say we don't fight here. We know what we got. We secure our interest. We have the highest claim. I don't have to go out there and prove to anybody until the moment arises. I don't go in there and say, I've got this, I've got that. Think about it. Does a bank just start flashing around, oh, we've got security interest in all of this property, we're the king of the hill? No, they just remain silent. And if something happens, well, then they produce what they got to produce. We got to be, thinking the same thing. There's a lot of crazy ideas out there, and people running with some really silly, crazy ideas. My God. Anyhow, maybe it's all part of the Democrat spilloff. And sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean that in judgment. And there's one other thing. I grew up with sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Anybody know what that means? Surely if you get whacked with a stick or hit with a stone, it's going to hurt. But words cannot possibly hurt unless you allow it. So you don't have to allow it. You don't have to let words get you all upset and get us all upset and all angry. It's just nonsense. A lot of people love to be a victim, don't they? And none of that here. We're here to take the bull by the horns and take charge of the situation and move on with our lives. I got no time for bickering and dickering and finger pointing and gossip and blah, blah, blah like that. So anyhow, I've rambled on far too long here. God bless you. Thanks for putting up with me. Chat soon. One more thing. This might help put things in perspective. I got to laugh at people claiming they're sovereign. Remember in the very first video in there, the borrower is servant to the lender. And all these people out there claiming to be sovereign, yet they have bills, they have debts that they're responsible for. That's not sovereignty. That is not sovereignty. Sovereign doesn't have any of that stuff. So it's like Canada here used to be called the Dominion of Canada. But once it became a debtor nation, it can no longer claim to be a dominion. Dominion, supreme authority. It's not the supreme authority anymore. So people don't think. They don't think things through. And I highly recommend people think things through. make sure you can swim before you jump in the lake kind of thing. It's pretty straightforward, quite frankly. And freedom. I said earlier in this video, mentioned that this whole reclaim your securities thing is about far greater than getting a car, for example. I don't want to harp on that, but it's freedom. And I'm asking you to sit back and really think on this freedom. What is freedom? See, we think back to when you were a child. Hopefully you had a good childhood. And to be quite frank, that's my, what's the word I'm looking for here? When I want to get back on a real calm zone, that's what I do. I think back to when I was a child, when I was out of the house, away from mom. love you, mom. God bless you. But away from mom and outside. In fact, I remember after dinner and I was allowed to go outside, running down that hallway to that screen door and that door flashing open and free. From lack, from limitation, from being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, pay this, pay that, yo this, yo that. None of it is when we were children. You remember that? That's what I mean by freedom. So I think perhaps freedom or free is a better choice of words perhaps than sovereignty. And the other problem I have with sovereignty, of course, is in my world, there's one sovereign, it's God, the creator. Sovereigns make the law, therefore they're above the law. And I'm talking the laws of life here, for example. So the laws of life don't apply to God because he created them. No. But anyhow, but they all apply to you and I. So no, I'm not a sovereign. I'll never claim to be a sovereign. I'll never claim to be a human being either. As Christ says, human consciousness is the cause of all crime in the world. Human consciousness is not God consciousness. It's two different things. Like human love is not divine love. Completely different. But the freedom, just whatever it takes to feel that freedom, that's what we're talking about here. Because with that freedom, all of that other is covered. I don't know how to say this. I mean, free. You're not a debtor anymore. You're not a borrower anymore. You're not subject to anyone. You're just, okay, now you're free. It's like I say, it's something almost that can't be put into words. Yeah, we can look in the dictionaries and define it all down there, but it's, to me, it's got to come from within. It's a feeling, that feeling of freedom, and then having that, being that freedom. And so that's my happy place, is to go back to when I was a child. Now, to add to that, I have taken the highest claim to my estate. I have the control. So do I have full freedom yet? No. And our reason is because when this whole COVID thing started, I was going down a certain path, and this COVID thing started, and I can see people were going to, for sure, the longer this went on, have some serious financial difficulty. So we kind of changed the plan here a little bit with this reclaim your security stuff, and put less attention on my own path and purpose, and wanted to get this information out there as best we could to people, to help them with their financial situations, to understand and go beyond that, perhaps. That's why things changed a little bit here for us in my plan. And but I'm on busy, Jack. I'm sorry. So yeah, so here I am. It's all good. And again, I'm not going to say stuff to butter you up here and sell you. It gets you excited and involved for the wrong reasons. Not going to happen. But anyhow, just a moment here. Cake. Somebody brought me some cake. Yummy. You're not getting any. If you were here, I'd be happy to share, but you're not. So, and I don't know how to do it. The virtual cakes just doesn't work for me either. So, yeah, freedom. Please feel that freedom, whatever it takes, whatever zone you got to get into. That's what we're talking about ultimately here. And like I say, freedom from lack. Don't focus on the words here. It's what is freedom? What freedom is. Think on that. And that's all I wanted to add here, because that is what this is about. Ultimately, that's like I said, if you don't have good health, the difference doesn't make how much money you have, what kind of job you have, any of that other stuff, if you don't have good health. So look at the freedom in that aspect. in what we're talking about here, reclaim your securities. God bless you. Love you. Ciao.